Good morning. Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wellness Wednesday. I hope you are fantastic. I am fresh from a jazzercise workout. But at least I threw on a clean shirt for you guys, right? So you didn't have to look at all the sweat. I hope you're having a fabulous, fabulous morning. Happy Wellness Wednesday. If you are just stumbling on my page, my name is Donna. I am a wellness advocate. I'm a mom. I'm a nana. I'm a significant other. I am an activewear fanatic, an entrepreneur, and an aspiring personal trainer, and looking at grad school in about a year. Now, that's a mouthful for you. Okay, so if you're new to Wellness Wednesday was started because wellness is a very broad topic and it covers a lot of things. There's a lot of things that come into play under wellness. So a lot of times we're digging into mindset. I mean, that's out of 19 episodes, the bulk of it's been digging into things like fear and depression and anxiety and mindset. But last week we did make our way back around to the body. We talked about group fitness and why so many people fear it. And so it seemed to make sense to start touching on nutrition and things like that again for a couple of weeks. And then I was presented with the perfect opportunity when my body decided it just didn't want to play for a couple of days this weekend. So another little story that is probably going to be a little personal, but wellness is personal, right? So stick around. And if you find this helpful, reach out to me, share it. If you don't see this until later today, hit hashtag replay in the comments or something of that nature so that I know you saw it. And as always, I love to learn. So the whole point of this is sharing tips with each other that can help each other out, right? Because a lot of times what works for one person doesn't work for the other, but there's also a lot of times that there's people out there looking for something that does work and they may not have ever heard of or tried what you are doing, right? So not a doctor, not a licensed counselor, just want to share things that work for me. And if there is a topic you would like to see covered, definitely reach out to me. If you just don't have the wherewithal or know where to start, reach out to me because I do love to learn. I'd be happy to poke around a little bit, see if we can feature it on a future Wellness Wednesday. Good morning, Miss Carla. Like I said, I'm always just no negativity, no politics, right? All right, so let's get started. I couldn't resist the topic, got gas, although that isn't totally, it pretty much is, but it's not totally what I want to talk about today. And it said, what would Hippocrates say? Well, there's three things that Hippocrates would say. If you're not familiar with Hippocrates, if you are, you probably already know where I'm going with this. And that is number one. Well, Hippocrates said a lot of things. Those ancient philosophers, they had a lot on their minds. But the three top ones that come to mind today are, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. Very, very important thing in my world. Number two, walking is man's best medicine. And number three, eating alone will not keep a man well. He must also take exercise. So, basically what happened over the weekend is something that only happens to me like maybe not even, it's happened like 3 times in the last 2 years. When I was younger and I didn't eat as well as I do now, I used to have this problem on an ongoing basis, especially before I hit menopause. My body traps gas. I am not one of those people that's able to expel gas very easily. That's always been an issue for me, and I've always had a sensitive stomach. Which I have learned as an adult has also translated to a little bit of a sensitive digestive system in general. When I say sensitive stomach, I mean my mother kept Pepto-Bismol in the fridge at all times for me because you just never knew. You just never knew. I could be fine and all of a sudden not, and then all of a sudden fine again. So I've always had a little bit of a sensitive stomach. I know I tend to have a higher acid level. And what does that mean? That means that sometimes something I eat or something I do just hits me wrong and it can cause a problem for 3 or 4 days. How long it causes a problem depends on how much I want to pay attention to it and do something about it. Then use things that I know work versus giving into the pain and discomfort and wallowing under the heating pad, which is what I did this weekend. So, like I said, basically what happens is everything kind of gets just trapped in there. Even if things, and it's mostly gas, and it creates all kinds of havoc and sometimes some discomfort. And it's just a fact of my life. And if I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, it's really not hardly ever a problem. But when it is, how long it lasts and how hard it affects me, depends on how quickly I get on the things that I know that work. And I didn't get on them fast enough this time. So it was pretty much a whole weekend thing. All right. So there are things to look for if you're having indigestion, stomach issues, and it is occurring on a fairly regular basis. And there's a lot of people that are like, oh, well, it's probably just gas. And then a couple days later might still be, oh, well, it's probably just gas or indigestion or my digestive tract isn't moving or whatever. And there are red flags that should tell you when it is actually time to seek medical attention. In my case, I am actually usually pretty in tune to my body. So even though it took me a couple days to figure out what set this off, and I'm still not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure I have an idea. If you are in tune with your body, you'll know what's normal for you and what is not normal for you. I mean, we can find normal guidelines all over every medical website on the face of the earth. The fact is that everybody has their own normal, their own kind of homeostasis. So if you know your body and you know what you're experiencing is not normal, then just go. If you know what you're experiencing is normal, we've got some great tips today that might help you out. But when you should seek medical attention is if you have abdominal pain that's very sharp and severe. And of course, I know I don't have my appendix anymore because it tried to kill me. So we got that out of there. So I knew that wasn't the problem. If you also have pain in the chest, neck, or shoulder associated with whatever stomach indigestion you're experiencing, if there's any kind of blood involved, I'm not going to go into details because, like I said, I know wellness is a little intimate, but we don't need to get that. But you know what I mean. If there's any blood involved in your indigestive process, if you have a high fever, if you're having a hard time breathing, if you're developing consistent nausea and what usually follows that, vomiting, if your abdomen is stiff, hard, and tender to the touch, again, if you don't have your appendix, that's not usually an issue. But if it's stiff and hard and tender to the touch, appendix or not, go seek help. Or if things are absolutely not moving through your digestive system, but you're also having things come back up. I'm trying to be gentle here, people. I know it's first thing in the morning. Good morning, Caitlin. So those are the red flags to definitely look for. Like I said, if you know your body, then you know what your normal is and what it's not. So common triggers, and a lot of times the first thing that I do if I'm having a stomach issue is, all right, what have I done different in the last few days, or have I had something new that I don't usually have? What could have caused this? So common triggers for any kind of gas, indigestion, slow processing, whatever. The most common triggers, according to Medical News Today, are low fiber, not drinking enough water, which is especially an issue if you've got a high fiber intake, because you need that water for that fiber to do what it's supposed to do. Inactivity, stress. The top 5 foods are usually dairy. Dairy they name specifically in copious amounts. A lot of people are lactose intolerant or sensitive to it and don't realize it. I would say any food that you know you're sensitive to in large amounts is going to be a problem. And if you don't know you're sensitive to it, try cleaning up your diet or doing an elimination diet for a little bit. And I promise you, as you reintroduce foods, you will find out what you are sensitive to. Fried foods, fried foods, refined and artificial carbs and sugars, spicy foods. Y'all, I love me some spicy food. So that could have been part of the problem. Caffeine and those are the foods that are triggers. And then spinal misalignment can also be a trigger. Now, I'm not, like I said, I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to get into all of that. What I do know is this, that there are times where I've had temporary flare-ups in my stomach, and getting myself adjusted either with Eric's help or by myself in the middle back area has made it disappear as fast as it's come on. So I've had it happen several times, and I've had it happen in different areas of my spine with my sinuses too. So keep in mind that the spine, each vertebrae is connected to a nerve center, if you will. I'm not using the right terminology because I'm not a doctor. But each vertebrae is connected to a part of your nervous system and does affect it if it's out of alignment. So, like I said, I know this to be true because I've actually seen it happen with my own body. All right, so what were my triggers? To be perfectly honest, when I'm feeling cold or when it's colder temperatures, I am not as good at drinking water. So that was probably my number one thing. I don't usually and should not drink coffee on a regular basis. And the week prior, I was drinking coffee almost every single day. Not good for my personal digestive system. Hey, Miss Ann. And there was some stress there for a couple of days about a few different things, a little bit higher than what I normally experience. So more than likely what happened here was a combination of too much caffeine. And I really can't think of anything wrong other than that I was not eating enough vegetables. I can tell you that the only vegetables I had the whole day before this started was whatever vegetables happened to be on my sandwich at my lunch meeting. So improper diet is a thing. And if I'm not getting vegetables and fruits, I'm also not getting fiber. So that low fiber thing comes into play. So that is more than likely. Good morning, Miss Tracy. What triggered me in this case? But again, the top foods that usually trigger are dairy, or like I said, anything in large amounts, anything that you're sensitive to. Fried foods, refined and artificial carbs and sugars. You know, those of you that know me know I can go all day on that subject. Spicy foods, caffeine. So those are the most common triggers for something like this. All right. So I have a few things that really, really work for me before I resort to OTC meds. So there are, and these do not involve herbs per se, although I do have a few of those. You're welcome to message me if you want to know more about that, supplements, but I usually try not to talk about supplements too much on Wellness Wednesday. So the first thing is tea. Tea is an amazing thing, and especially black tea has tannins in it that act as like an antiseptic or an astringent for your stomach. The way somebody put this to me years ago when I was having stomach issues in the office, and she marched herself in there and made me a pot of tea in the coffee pot and then poured it over ice and said, "Here, drink this." And I thought she was crazy. It was just plain old Lipton tea. I thought she was nuts. And a little bit later, it settled my stomach. So this has been my go-to for a lot of things. Anytime my daughter was hungover, or we had food poisoning, anything like that, my go-to is usually sweet tea, or hot black tea. Only sweet tea because I'm just not a fan of cold plain tea. I can drink it plain when it's hot, but not when it's cold. Don't ask. I'm weird. Anyway, so my go-to for any kind of stomach upset, or if, like I said, there's been a case of food poisoning or whatever, has always been, or has been for a long time, black tea. It does amazing things for me. Sipping a little bit of time. Doesn't matter if it's sweet or unsweet. If you can get it with mint in it also, even better. For nausea. But what we're talking about today is gas and indigestion. So the go-to there is going to be, if you can get it, chai or cinnamon tea for me. Chai tea, which has cinnamon in it and also some ginger most of the time, or cinnamon tea with some raw honey as a sweetener, has turned out to be one of the silver bullets for me for gas. For gas and indigestion, just helping to settle that, or actually making it possible for me to belch, which is very difficult for me. Don't laugh at me, but if you must, if it entertains your day, that's just the truth. That's always been an issue for me. Ginger tea is also fantastic for those of you that are big fans of ginger ale but don't want the carbonation, because when you are experiencing indigestion, carbonation is generally not recommended, and that's why back in the old days they used to tell us to stir the ginger ale until the carbonation was gone, until it was flat. For it to work, just have some ginger tea. and that just a lot less work. Ginger ale never personally worked well for me, so I've always resorted back to the tea. The lady that made that pot of tea for me on that infamous day said that the tannins helped neutralize the bad stomach acid. I don't actually know that to be true, but I do know that the tannins act as an astringent, and it really does make a difference. Sip it, small amounts, etc. But usually the chai tea or the cinnamon tea with raw honey is a solid silver bullet for me if I'm experiencing gas, if I catch it early and it doesn't become problematic. Other foods, I'll bet you don't know this, but apples can actually help with gas. I learned this several years ago. Now, in my case, it has to be a very teeny tiny case, maybe a little bit of belching, but it's not really trapped yet for me. Apples, if you have a very mild case, apples are very good in moderation, because if you're eating too many, if you're eating 4 or 5 apples a day, there are things about the apples that can actually cause gas. But 1 a day in moderation, a small to medium-sized apple, can actually help for mild cases of gas. In my case, if I don't get on top of it before it gets trapped here, or even lower, then apple's not going to work, and it's straight to the tea I go. Pineapple. The enzyme bromelain, which actually is found in pineapple and papaya, is fantastic for digestion. This was something I discovered a few years ago when I had some unknown exposure to an allergen, and it created stomach issues for days. I was literally wearing pants that were 2 sizes too big for me, looked like I needed a bovine needle, and it was all kind of an allergic reaction type deal. That's when I was so desperate. 2 or 3 days later to just, feel not like the Stay Puft Marshmallow, that I was getting desperate and started doing some research. And, oh, good morning, Danielle. Yes, tea. Tea is awesome. Pineapple, that enzyme that's in it, it eases bloating, it aids digestion if you're not allergic to it. I know a surprising amount of people that are actually allergic to pineapple. If it doesn't have that effect on you, or, if it causes gastrointestinal distress or itching, if you come in contact with it, no pineapple for you. But papaya does also have that same enzyme, unless that's what you're actually allergic to. And pineapple, maybe pineapple juice, but definitely fresh pineapple especially has huge benefits and is very good for stomach issues, digestive tract issues, and so on. So, next up, movement. And this is really where I made my mistake, because it came on so fast and so hard, and I was trying to muscle through it on Friday, that when I did finally stop, instead of doing what I should have been doing in the kitchen with it, I just kind of tried to ignore it. And then I went and parked myself in the chair under the heating pad. We'll talk about the heating pad in a minute, because that is actually a lot of help. However, sitting that long of a period of time when you're experiencing something like that is not helpful. So let's talk about movement. Yoga. I actually have a great routine that I found on YouTube that I did yesterday morning. I found it 3 days ago. Did I do it 3 days ago? No. I did it yesterday morning after I was actually starting to feel better, and feel more normal. I should have done it the day I found it. But if you're interested in it, I can post the link in the comments. Very, very basic movements, very, very basic routine. But sometimes you just need something to kind of remind you of the things that can be done and the poses you need that help with gas, or indigestion. Basic ones are child's pose, cat, cow. Happy baby is an excellent one for helping to move things through your digestive system if you're having trouble and it's all trapped, especially with gas. So there are yoga poses that are specific to that purpose, but a good solid routine. This was a 30-minute video. The guy is very happy, very relaxing, actually made me smile a lot, and really felt like I got some blood moving back to my stomach area, which was great. Yes, Miss Carla, I will absolutely drop that link. So movement is really important. When you're experiencing something like that, the best thing is walking or yoga. That is absolutely true. What Hippocrates said about walking exercise, it can address a multitude of different things. But for gas, some walking, if you don't want to go outside, or you don't, if you're having trouble and you don't want to get too far from a bathroom and you have a treadmill, walk circles around your house, walk out in your yard, just sitting under the heating pad for hours, wallowing in misery is not the answer. Let me just tell you that. It's just not the answer. So make sure you're moving, take a walk, do some yoga. I promise you it'll make a big difference. It may not feel like it right away. Heat is amazing. Heating pad here, a hot water bottle here, can actually help ease the pain or reduce the pain a little bit if you're experiencing gas pain. Again, if it is intense pain, then you need to think about seeking attention. But if this is within your normal, or there was a food issue, then these are great ways that you can handle it. Hot bath. I did use some Epsom salts. I've heard a lot about Epsom salts. I didn't necessarily feel like that helped me, but the bath was relaxing. Heat helps relax all those muscles in that digestive system and just kind of calm everything down. And sometimes that can make a drastic difference. Hot water bottles also work. And then massage. Now, I just heard about stomach massage, I don't know, about a year ago for the first time. So I do have a PDF. If you would like that, send me a message that just gives a basic instruction of how to do a stomach massage. But you are supposed to start on the right side of your body. Always moving your hands clockwise and move up to your right rib and then across and then over to your left rib and then down to your left pelvic area. Basically, always moving your hands in a circular motion, a little bit slower maybe than I did. Makes a huge difference. I tried it. It works. So if I know all these things, why was I miserable for 3 or 4 days? For the same reason anybody else would be, is that sometimes if you're already a little bit down or you're already up against some resistance on a few different things, when something like this happens and you're in pain or you're uncomfortable and you don't feel good, we have a tendency to just want to go curl up in a ball in bed or on the couch or in the chair under the heating pad and not do the things we know we need to do that could help us get through this faster or help us get through it better. Okay? So these are all things I've used before. They're all things that have worked. That's how I learned about them, out of desperation, trying to solve problems, not having time to go to the doctor or the ability to go to the doctor or whatever, and knowing that it was a temporary thing, knowing it was because of something I ate or something I had an allergic reaction to or whatever. So sometimes I get right on these things and I do things the right way, and sometimes I don't. This weekend was an example of where I didn't. But this is definitely something that can be very helpful to you. Again, the most important thing is to know your body. I'm running a little long today, is to know your body and know if what is happening is inside your norm. And sometimes it is okay to wait a day or two to kind of wait and see. But if you still have things like appendixes and gallbladders and you're experiencing intense pain or you're experiencing anything that is outside of your normal, then it's a good idea to go ahead and seek medical assistance if it's not something. But these are the things that I try before I hit the Tums, before I start looking at something like Gas-X. And of course, if I wait too long, sometimes I have to bring those into the picture too. But I really do try to use these natural methods to eliminate some of this before, and see what kind of an effect I'm having. If I'm having a stomach issue and it's neutralized right away by the tea, then I don't have to worry about anything else. I just know that it was something a little small, the tea's taking care of it, and I keep an eye on it. So the last time I experienced this before this weekend, it lasted about 12 to 24 hours. So it was either a much milder case or it's because I got on it and did all these things right away. All right, that's all I have for you today. Hippocrates has spoken, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. Walking is man's best medicine, and eating properly alone will not keep you well. You should exercise also. So make sure you're walking, make sure you're doing your yoga. And if this is something you are experiencing on a regular basis, as far as indigestion, slow digestive system, whatever, if you haven't already, seek medical help or start taking a good hard look at your diet and exercise habits and see if you can't help to get that under control a little bit. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this helpful, please share. If you have topics you would like to see me cover, send me a message. Remember, no politics, no negativity. And if you do want that massage PDF, shoot me a message. And I'll have to get your email address to send it to you unless I can figure out how to upload it into Messenger. I feel like I should know that already, but it's still early. I will drop the comment for that yoga routine that I did yesterday with a link so that you can check it out. Have a fabulous Wednesday and be well. I'll see you next week. Bye.